Hi, welcome to Derek Does. Today, we're going to do this. This is my 1950s, my new to me, 1950s Singer 114W103. This machine is a chain stitch embroidery machine, and it's pretty special. It's really highly sought after, and it's a very unique sewing machine just in general of what it does and what it can do. And I thought I picked one up recently, and I'm not really into the embroidery sewing, and I'll show you kind of what that is. I'm more into just normal sewing, but they're really cool machines. I've had a few of these over the years. I just picked this one up, got it sewing great. It's fantastic actually. And I'm going to show you kind of the features of it. I'm not going to go into crazy detail on it, but at least give you an idea what the Singer 114W103 is. And I'm sure if you're into industrial sewing, or if you're into embroidery, or if you're into crafts, you've probably seen these or heard about these. These are widely copied. This is actually a copy of the Cornelli, which was a French, I believe a French manufacturer kind of invented this style of thing, and then Singer made them in the 20s and that sort of thing up until probably the 1960s, probably late 60s. And then the Japanese Singer still made them. Kanso makes them. Treasure makes them. Now there's a bunch of these Pakistan companies that are copying these, but this is kind of the machine that everyone kind of wants, is the Singer, because the Singer is the Singer. And just keep in mind that if you're going to buy a Singer, you should, because the Singer is probably one of the best, unless you get a Cornelli, and then the Cornelli is like even better than the Singer. But Cornelli's is almost like a different, so there's like, this is like the Corvette, and a Cornelli's like the Ferrari. It's more of the Italian, although they're not Italian, but it's more of, it's the next step up. But each one kind of does the same thing, let's take a look at this. I'm going to show you kind of the features of it, what's special about it, what to look for, and just kind of what this machine is and what kind of stitch it makes. So this is the Singer, again, 114W103. Now this machine actually is missing its tag. These two little holes here would be where there'd be a brass tag saying that. It's come off. This machine has obviously been well used. You can see the finish is all gone from all this work area. But if you notice, most of the work was here. And then some of it, I mean, the black paint back here is still good, but not up here. The machine itself has a crinkle finish on it that you can see, which tells me that this is a mid 1950s machine, because Singer Industrials did the crinkle finish during that time. It's got the same finish basically as my 155 that I've showed you previously, but I can't give you an exact date because it is a W serial number, and as I mentioned before, W serial numbers from Singer were all destroyed, so they can't give you exact dates on it. But as you can see, this is the machine. Normally this machine would be in a table, but it's a bigger size than, it's a special size. This machine is the only machine that I know of that has this configuration. It's a little wider this way than a normal machine, like a normal flatbed. Like if you come over here to my 31, it's thinner, and the length on the 31 is longer, which wouldn't be a big problem. Then you could just put a little piece of wood here, like I've done here. Like this is actually an old table that I've made as a flat table, so I could use it for multiple machines. And I've even cut out, I had a machine mounted down here with a belt and a motor, but I just have one motor here. So what I did, and I'll show you this before we go into the machine, I made this little base. Now you can make a base like this. It just has to be tall enough, because the special feature of this machine is this handle. And basically when you're sewing, see, as you turn it, this part turns. And I'll show you when we sew what happens when that happens. It has a wood handle, and it has well, I'll get into the features later, but you'd have a handle that you need to be able to move. Normally this would be under the table. The table would be here, and you would sit down, and you would kind of drive this machine, more so than a normal machine. So your right hand is turning it while your left hand is holding on to the material. So it's kind of it's an event when you use it, because you need to, it's not just throwing material straight forward like a normal machine. You actually have to drive this machine. So that's one of the features of why this machine is special, but there's many others. But again, so I made this little base, and you have to cut out here so you can reach in. There's inside here, there's a, what they call it, a worm gear, that you can switch from normal chain stitch to a moss stitch. Basically, so the machine will make a normal chain stitch, or a moss stitch is kind of like a fluffy stitch that you would have like on a Letterman jacket, like when it would say like the year or something like that. But we'll get into that also. I made a pretty much, since I have to keep the front open, I doubled up the back end here so you can, so it holds this, and it holds it pretty well. It does a pretty good job. If you ever get a machine like this and you can't find a table, or you don't want to buy a table, but you have a table from something else, you can do the same thing. You just make this, sit in a taller chair, and you're fine. I then made my extra long cable, because it comes down to just a normal clutch down here, as you can see. So I had to find some leather pieces, and it's actually like 3 pieces of a leather belt that I put together. And also I have a video on how to make leather belts and that sort of thing that you can check out to see how to do that after you watch this, if you're interested. But here's the machine again. It's a small machine. It doesn't weigh that much. It may be maybe 20 pounds. It's a light machine. There's not that much like cast metal like in a normal machine. And it has this crazy gear setup here in the front. And what that does is not only, and I'll show you here. So you have a little thumb screw here. That comes off, just a metal plate. And inside you have your belt with one shaft. But then down here on the handle, when I turn it, you see this operates another shaft up here that runs back and forth and then runs into all these gears. Let me turn that off so you can see better. So you can, so as you turn it, that moves not only the needle, but it also moves this foot. And this foot goes up and down, it's always moving one way, but you can move it around this way so that it actually moves your material this way or that way, all over the place. It's kind of neat. It's a very unique machine, as I've said. You have a needle on a rod, and it comes down here, and at the very bottom here, there's what they call a nipple. And what they do is, even though the rod's the same, they make these little nipples in different sizes, from 1 through 12. 1 being the smallest and 12 being the largest. And if you look here, I'll turn the light back on so you can see. There is 12 of these holes to go all the way around, and each hole is a little bit bigger than the last one. So this nipple that's on here right now, I believe, is a number 9. So this matched up with they're not numbered, but it matched up with 9's hole. And then we had like 10, 11, 12, and then it comes back down, or maybe it's 10, 11, 12 this way, and then it goes to the smallest one. So your material rides on top of that. So it's all smooth, and the thread, you have one thread for the whole thing. So it's different than like a chain stitch regular machine where you'd have 2 threads making the chain stitch. This just has 1 thread making a chain stitch, but they still call it a chain stitch. Comes up through here, and this whole unit moves, and this bottom here has little grippy feet, as you can see there, that holds the material. I'll show you all these other pieces as we go along. I won't get into adjusting and timing or anything like that, because that's not what this video is about. This has also one feature on these. If you ever get one of these, if you notice, this handle pulls down, and there's a little lifter in there that lifts there. when the machines were first made, they have a little unit that rides along here. It's like a little L-shaped unit here that actually has a lock. So if your motor's constantly running, instead of using the pedal, your motor could be running, it could be spinning, and this shaft won't spin unless you hold this down. And normally if you're sewing, you would hold that down and you'd be moving this around. And then when you let go, it lifts up that little unit and then it would lock this. Most sewers and most machines I've seen take that out because it is kind of a pain to have to take that in and take it out because most people are just sewing constantly as they go along. But let's put this back on. And I'll show you the Singer. Now I've already threaded this, and I can show you how to thread it. It's really easy. So there underneath here, you have one tension, and then you also have this little springy unit. I don't know what they call this, but you can actually get these in different sizes also, depending on what you're sewing. So the thread comes through here. It actually simply just lays on the ground. Normally you would have a plate on the table, and it would fit there on your table, and then you would have these little screws, originals. I had an original table. I had a completely original machine with the table and everything. It was beautiful, but I just don't sew this type of sewing, and it was kind of silly to keep it. So I sold it, and I kind of wish I kept the table for when I got a new machine. But anyway, so the thread just comes straight up. I have it just coming around the back there. And as you can see, it goes through, there's actually a little hole here in a spring. Then it goes through the tension. And then you have to use a little unit like this. And it's similar kind of to like a 24 Singer, like a patching machine. Instead of pushing the thread in, it actually catches the thread. And I don't know if we can see that. There's a little, right there, there's a little cut in it. And what you do is you would have this set up. You can put your foot down and you push this through that hole. And down here you can see there's the catcher. And what you would do is you would thread it through here, and then you make a little loop, and this piece of metal would catch it, and it would pull your thread straight up, and it would come out right there. So that's how this works, but let's show you how it sews. So I'm just going to sew on this piece of denim, and what we're going to do is we just razor the thread, I'm just going to throw this down here just so you can see. When you thread this actual unit itself, what you need to do, here I'll show you. Up at the top there's a thumb screw here that you unscrew. This slides out, you put your needle on, you slide it down, and then you point your needle, so there's the needle, and I'll show you a close-up of the needle, has a little hook on it that catches the thread. You need to pull your handle forward towards you, set that up, and set your needle just above your material. Tighten that up, and then that should catch it. So let's see if we can catch it here. Again, I'm not that great on these machines, but let's just see. So I have my thread here. I'm just going to hold that just so it doesn't get caught. And then this is just a normal clutch, not a servo. A servo would be better because then you could have a little more control on the speed. But let's just see here. I'm just going to slowly push down on the foot pedal. There, see it catches? So you can make all sorts of designs. You can fill in those designs. The big thing is people do cursive names or just shops or whatever they're doing on the back of your machine. But you can see it does a really neat stitch. So these are what they call the nipples, and each one's labeled, like this is a number 3, this one is I found I had a couple extras. I sold pretty much all the ones I had. This is number 4, and I have a number 6. The one that's currently on there is a number 9. This is what the needle bar right here, that runs the whole length, and it's just, it's threaded on that side and also on that side. So if something ever happened to this end, you could always flip it around and use this end. The needles themselves are very unique. It's like a little crochet hook. You can see they're pretty long, but you can really see that little hook there. See that? And then it has a thread here, so that just threads right into there, and you just turn it and you thread it in. Each of the needles are labeled also by the size of the nipple they fit. So like a thicker needle would fit a thicker nipple, and a thinner one would fit a thinner one, obviously. But these are kind of the features that you need, and as you get into this machine, if you get crazy with this machine, you would have like a whole set of these, whole set of needles, and then you'd also have tons of different thread color, and you can make these just beautiful things people make. It's just not what I do, but people make some really amazing things. But this is the normal stitch, and then I'm going to do, what I'll do is I'll show you how to do what they call the moss stitch. So it does 2 stitches. So underneath here, let me turn that off again. As you can see, there's this, what they call a worm gear right here. And there's a thumb wheel here. What you do is we're going to pull that and turn it, and it'll flip into the next setting. I'll show you that in a second here. So we're going to change this to the moss stitch. I haven't ever done it actually on this machine. I just picked this up and it's doing this chain stitching that's just fantastic. So hopefully it can do the moss stitch fantastic too. We'll find out. Again, if you like this sort of content, please subscribe because I'm always finding cool machines or cool vintage things, things that you probably didn't realize you needed until you watched the videos. But let's try this out. Again, so we're going to reach in here. That's why I did this little cutout. I might make this cutout a little bit bigger for the next one, but you pull it out, kind of hang on to the handle because you kind of need that. Pull that out, and then you turn it, and it'll kind of click. There, you hear that? That goes clicked into the moss stitch. Now the second step in when you're doing that is we're going to have to turn the whole needle assembly the other way around. So again, to do that, we just have to, let's just raise that up all the way there. You need a little something just to release that thumb screw. The whole needle slides out. So there you can see, that's the needle that's currently in there. And it still has that same little hook that we had before. Now on this, when we're doing the moss stitch, you want to have that little notch in the hook facing away from you. So you just want to make sure it's going the way, and then you slide it through the hole all the way down. And then what you want to do, let me get more of my materials clean. Again, I'm no expert on this, but you want it to almost hit and then pull it up just a little bit to get that just right. Now I believe, depending, and just kind of tighten that very gently because these little things will break if you put a lot of force on them. The higher the needle is from the material is like the wider the stitches sometimes can be. But let's find out how the moss stitch, and let's see what happens. Perfect, actually, first time. Let's take a look. So as you can see, it's like a little fluffy. It's a little fluffy. So what you would do then, generally you would outline your whatever shape you're going to do with the chain, and then you come back in and fill it in with the moss stitch. So you can really see there how it fills it in. If you've ever seen like a Letterman jacket, that would have like the year of, you know, when you graduate or going to graduate, or if you saw the back of a logo or anything like that. Generally the moss stitch is what they do, and you can see it's actually kind of a raised pile loop, almost like a carpet, but you can kind of see how it's soft. So you can see it's a really cool machine and very unique. This is kind of why people kind of go crazy for these machines, and why they're still making copies all over the world of this machine, because of its popularity and its need. People really want it. And obviously there's just not enough of these to go around. This one actually will be for sale, and actually kind of is for sale. I just got it. I'm not going to be using it really, but you can see it sews great. That's kind of one of the things that people kind of want as a machine that works. Is not the prettiest, you know, not the mintest machine I've had of these, but obviously this machine had been well used, well taken care of, because I mean, it is a really nice machine. So I'll see you on the next one.